want anybody to know that I have a music stand in here.
I would tell you that was just in time, but it wasn't.
No, that's okay. I see it. I don't want anybody to know.
How are you, Lance?
Oh, I'm awesome. I mean, it's like hard to imagine being better than I am right now.
I'm good. I'm good. I ain't that good.
I'm a little burned out, and today I kept attempting to do things, and then found myself just sort of staring off.
Well, part of that is that we spent from 9 until like 12:45 this morning.
It's fair.
On Zoom doing interviews.
Yeah.
With people that we're not yet ready to reveal.
Which is too bad, because those are going to be humdingers.
They are
powerhouses.
Yep.
For different reasons.
One is someone who I went to Northwestern with, who is one of the best players I've ever played with, who is no longer playing. That's actually a big hint.
It's a hockey player?
And yes. Yes, it's a hockey player who's retired. Northwestern is a huge hockey school. So yeah, the intramural team there is really, really renowned. And then the other person is a superstar.
Yeah, somebody I was very excited about having on the show and was very happy to talk to.
Yeah.
I've sort of fanboyed out, but that's okay.
Yep, a little bit. It was awkward, but I dealt with it.
All right, I don't care.
Yeah.
I usually started awkward.
So how are you, Lance? Are you doing okay?
Doing okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm
in
doing
beautiful and sunny Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which it's not currently. It was like nasty rain in here earlier.
Oh boy, when we were recording, it was torrential. Like I thought it was possible you were going to be able to hear it.
Couldn't hear anything.
It was like kind of insane, but no, it worked out okay. And it's supposed to be nice again moving forward.
We haven't done.
Why we're here is to talk about the weather. I think
we haven't done the back-to-back interviews thing in a while. We used to do that a lot more.
I remember why we stopped, but it was really nice to have that many. Now we're good.
But the good news is that both of the guests were, were great. I mean, it's like the second one of those of a back-to-back interview is pretty painful. If the second I think it only happened once that we did back-to-back, and we've done 3 in a day before.
We have.
And there was I honestly, I'm not, obviously I wouldn't say if I did, but I honestly don't remember who it was, but I do remember at one point it was like the third of the day that was like coming in real slow. Like there was just like, and I just remember that was a long a long hour and a half.
Tony says, "Hey gents."
Prisk?
Mm-hmm.
Tell him to get a real job. Oh wait, he has one. Oh, that Tony Prisk, the one in the Philadelphia Orchestra. Yeah, I guess that's a.
I thought that both of the Nova nicknames were not bad today, but I really liked the one. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, those are something to look forward to. So yes, that is fair. That is fair. So all right. So what we teased
we actually prepared today, kind of.
Right? Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. And I've got this. This is pretty funny, actually. Remember the alarm that was going off right before we started one of the interviews? I was like, I need to shut this up, or it's going to keep. Apparently, I rescheduled it for 7.
Nice.
For the next thing that we have. So yeah, and the best part is that it's like an 8-minute. It's like an 8-minute task that I have, and I've been snoozing that for a week and a half. So that's fun. That's pretty fun.
Tony says he's trying, although he misspelled trying. And I think he's trying to respell it.
What page is he on?
I'm looking at it through the Brass Junkies Facebook page.
Yeah,
I would give him a harder time, except I've been burnt by autocorrect and thumbs that are too fast for my brain on more than one occasion. But
my best friend, whose name might be Russell Beebe, was possibly on GroupMe trying to besmirch the fine instrument that is the tuba, and he said something about he said don't even bother with the tuba, that's a losing battle.
How's the battle going? That's getting looser.
To which I just responded, just losing battle. That was my whole comeback. So, which I thought was pretty funny. So.
Actually, it would be a loosening paddle, Russell.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, I literally cannot find the stream on our. Well, I can find the stream at the top. Jeez, Facebook. These pages are so convoluted. It's unreal. Like the garbage that they take up with real estate. Man, it's unreal. I gotta like go like this with my index finger like 5 times on my spin wheel to get down. There it is. Jeepers creepers. There he is. Hey, Tony. That was commented. See, that was a letdown. I already knew all of the comments, and that just took me a long time. Anyway,
long walk for a short drink.
Yeah, exactly. So, so Lance, share with the people how you decide whether you're going to say yes to a gig, because this is an interesting. Let's back up. Lance was talking in one of our interviews today. We were talking with the person about like what this is going to look like on the other side of this, and not that any of us predicted it because we don't really know, but just about how it might change our behaviors after the last year and what it's what it's been like to be home more. And anyway, let's start though with Lance. What is your system for deciding whether you say yes to a thing?
The system is there are 3 major factors. One is the art. One is the hang, and one is the bread. And if you need to, and I don't remember where I stole this from. I know I stole it partly from a movie actor. I think it was Michael Caine, about how he took roles. But I can't remember if I adapted it or if I stole it from somebody's adaptation of that adaptation. But regardless, the art, the hang, and the bread. And if you can get 2 of those, then take the gig. If you get 3, count your lucky stars, because that almost never happens. But anytime you take a gig based on one of those, it's usually not going to work out. I mean, the money has to be ridiculously disproportionately good to survive a hang with terrible art. The hang is bad and the art is bad. The bread better have lots of zeros after it, which in our world isn't likely. And then, like the hang and the art oftentimes are the biggest part. At that point, the bread is secondary. Who are you getting to play with? What music are you getting to make? What does that all look like? So anytime it's like one of those trust your gut deals. So you just sort of run that through the machine and find out, where does this one stand? And so we were talking about it today. What kinds of, because the guest said something that I've heard echoed by actually one of my dear friends and dear friend of yours as well recently, where it's just we're just not going to get on a plane as often as we used to. And some of that is just because we're fortunate enough that we don't have to. Some of that is just like the luck of the draw that I happen to have what I need to survive, and I don't have to worry about that. So I'm very grateful, and I have not lost sight of that. And at the same time, I'm just not interested in touring, traveling, any of that. I have another dear friend, and I don't want to speak for him, but it's Cutler. Dave Cutler loves traveling. I mean, he just loves the act of traveling in a way that I do not. And whenever we talk to each other about it, he's mystified that I don't, and I'm mystified that he does. But I'm happy. I'm like, the happier, the older I get, the more I am getting in touch with my attachments and the things I'm grateful for. And those get deeper, that gets harder.
Aww.
Not me. Harder to unpack. That like the work is harder, but more satisfying. The work of understanding your attachments and working to let go of them is harder, but the upside is greater. And so I'm just not that interested in. I mean, especially when the bulk of the opportunities that I have these days are talking into a Zoom thing. And I'm happy to do that. And it's going to be a way better. If there's a special reason that you need my my body in your town, okay, we could talk about that, but you're going to save a lot of money and hassle and time. I'm going to save a lot of time to give you the value of the 1 to 3 hours of my time that you actually need, but you're going to have me there for 3 days to get that.
Yeah.
And then just to convince my family and myself that that's worth going to do is it's going to be a tougher sell, I think. You?
Yeah, it's well, case in point of what you just said. I was with Nicholas at the playground 2 days ago and got a Facebook message from a band director who is in charge of the Georgia All-State this year, which is obviously virtual. And yeah, it was like 20 minutes later, I'm like doing a session for for all the All-State kids in Georgia.
Yeah.
It's like, and yeah, and if the price was quite reasonable, but if that price had been to come to Georgia, then it would have been completely unreasonable. I mean, and I've only just met this gentleman, but I'm quite positive he would not have offered that to get me to get on a plane for it was generous for I was right in line for what I asked for like an hour long presentation, on I almost said Spotify. What the hell? I'm not even in Spotify's ecosystem anymore. Zoom. Yeah, which was just like, it was easy. And it wasn't like, let me see about getting my kid covered. It wasn't like I got to check flights. I got to, there's like a lot of, and there's something about being in the same room as, as students and, and getting them all energized and all that stuff. But it's just, yeah, I think that things are going to change because if you can get, this is an awkward segue because I'm not talking about myself as an expert or a genius, but if you can get one of like the world's,
not just you, no one.
Hey,
no
look
one.
at that! Alan Fowler just commented, said, "Hey, I'm actually here. Thanks for mentioning the Georgia All-State deal." Well,
Hey.
I'm glad that I didn't. I was going to say he seemed a little pushy. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't at all. I'm glad I didn't say anything bad. Hello, Alan. Anyway, it's and there, by the way, and I said this to my to my wife, like at Georgia, the roster, I have no idea what if that is public, so I'm not going to say any of it, but and I don't have it in front of me, but they're putting on an impressive event of like some virtual performances and some sessions, and it's like, yeah, it's obviously, I'm sure every single one of those kids is heartbroken that they're not going to be able to be at All-State and play, but like what they've come up with is like very impressive, and it's got to have been a lot of work. So yeah, it's great to be involved. But I think that there's going to be a combination of people coming in, but if you could, and I don't know whether this would be All-States in the future, which are obviously all in one place, whatever, but who's to say, for example, that there might not be some virtual like the weekend before All-State where it's like, where there's like two things to get kids all ramped up, and you could have Dr. Tim talking to them on Zoom for a fraction of what it would cost for, at that point it might be completely free because Con Selmer might just pay for it. You get them all jazzed up for this thing so that they walk in like, at a fever pitch. It's so there might end up being like a combination of those kind of things where it's virtual and in person, and then you can get more people in, you can have more impact for barely any more money, or maybe even less money because you have less people come in for that hour. So there's less people there, but there's more people overall, and the people that you get are bigger impact because they're bigger names because they're sitting in their office. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
You hit the nail on the head, I think, in that the stuff that is special in that it can only happen in person. Like to have that rehearsal with those students and the guest conductor can only happen that way.
Absolutely.
But if you have motivational things or individual instrument things, or you want to well, then take advantage of this platform, these sorts of platforms to make it even better.
Yes.
So it's an additive and not a replacement for. And then you choose like, here's the stuff that's going to be awesome because it's in person. And there's like, Tom's got this great, I don't know if you saw Tom's note here in the Facebook chat, but there's certain things that there's just no comparison that to do them in person is better. And then anything that isn't that way, then don't do it. Like what? It's just sort of. It's fun, it seems antiquated now, and a little quaint. But there was starting to be a rumble of the. Excuse me, for big festivals and big tours. We're starting to look at the environmental impact that they were having by hosting these huge in-person festivals and going on these huge international tours. And you look at the fuel costs and overhead and trash that's created, and just sort of what are we doing when what's the dark side to what we're doing when we put on a huge event like that in person? And could there be a more scaled back thing that featured the best of both worlds? Because I've heard from a lot of colleagues who say that this is all just a waste, and like none of this is like we just got to survive this part so that we can get back to doing this thing. And I just think that's missing the mark. I just think you're not thinking creatively enough. If you don't think that there's any value in these opportunities and platforms, and now the things that we're used to, and taking advantage of, say I'm a middle school band director or a high school band director, and I've got $1,000, and I could spend that on one artist to come in for a day and a half and do a thing, and that would help cover their flight and their food and their hotel and their what. Or I could get 5 like awesome artists to talk over the course of the year for that same $1,000, or maybe more, or maybe you mix it up. You get like one big name that's a few $100, and then a couple of like folks that are starting out, that or people that are just their instrument company might do it. Well, you can get way more bang for your buck, and the kids will all still be in the band room, but fine. Like it's just. I just think people need to be more creative in terms, and maybe I'm being more harsh than maybe it's unfair. Maybe people aren't thinking that way, but I've just heard.
I think it'll be fair to criticize without any qualifiers in a couple of years. When we're on the other side of this, and it's just like, why we do things this way? It's because we've always done them that way. Yeah. I've come in and talked to your business classes at Carnegie Mellon because I was already in town. And I think it went really well and it was impactful, but like I could have done any of that from a TV screen at the front of the room.
Yeah.
Like there was no actual reason for me to be in person. I mean, for that example, because I didn't play the tuba. It wouldn't have made any sense for me to play a concert in like a music marketing class. Mm-hmm. It's easier to market music when it's played on something other than the tuba. Are there any questions? Let's see here. There's a couple of Leo Mason makes a really good point, which I'm fully aware of, and yet I forget about all the time. He says, I hope events keep at least some parts online. It really helps with disability access too, which is a very good point. It also, if there are that's something that we've tried to do with our events too, which I understand that some of them are a little bit pricey, but like the Tuba Workshop, yes, the play for the thing was, that was a bunch of money, but there was a very limited number of slots. But we also had like the one day, which was only $29, which was, which that's $29 is a lot of money for a lot of people. But that got you Roger Bobo and Mike Roylance and Velvet Brown. I mean, so it's like, we I hesitate to price everything really high, and when there's less overhead, it's like we didn't fly Roger Bobo to DC from Mexico, put him up in a hotel and pay his I'm leaving my house for 72 hours fee. I mean, that's so I think that there are some that
accessibility thing is real, and not only in that way, but to people who, like you said, like don't have the financial means, or they just don't have if say you're a ninth grader and you don't have let's say you don't have a family that supports the thing that you dig, that you're into, but you can escape into this thing and watch it online. I think it can be an additive thing. It's a yes and. It's not a either or. It used
Correct.
And now we know how to do this. Like we all know everybody's got the setup and everybody's got lights and like. That's all easy now. All of our peers that are doing these sorts of events, everybody has upgraded their microphone, their camera, their lighting, their backgrounds. Like that's like a no-brainer anymore. Yeah. And if I had tried to get you to Zoom into my class, first of all, I wouldn't have even known to use Zoom 2 years ago. Like the ordeal I would have had to go through to figure out how to make that happen. Like it was just it was an obstacle. It was like, forget it. It's just not worth it.
Let's just wait until you're in town and then we'll do it then. Whereas now it's just like click, click, click. Yep. Yeah. Imagine for that Allstate example. Imagine for that and Brian Balmages goes and conducts Allstates. But imagine if they were doing one of his pieces, but he's not the conductor. And the weekend before, you get to talk to the composer for 20 minutes, where it's just like, so you get a few of them, and that just, ends up becoming a part of whatever. I mean, you negotiate with them, and that might be able to be covered by sponsors, but that's a way to like jazz. There's a lot of ways you can't like fly composers in, and like you said, it's not practical on a super tight rehearsal schedule to like be like wheeling in AV and to have this and to have that, and those things are always from the podium is always like, let's go, and you go like it's a mad sprint for 2 straight days until the concert.
Well, you take Brian or Dr. Tim or Richard White, like somebody who you just want them in front of your students because they just like light the room on fire in a positive way. You could book them for 3 days, which means there's one place they can be for those 3 days. Mm-hmm. And they can't be talking to any other students in any other school for those 3 days. Well, now you could have Richard White, like if more people adopt this or keep doing this, well, then Richard White can be in 5 schools on Monday, 5 schools on Tuesday, and 5 schools on Wednesday, all from the comfort of his basement. I mean, whatever his body is able to handle in terms of his brain, just like, at some point you kind of burn out. But it's just a greater opportunity for him to get his message out to more people.
Yep. Yeah. Amen.
So did you see Tom Holtz's thing here? Recorded a brass quintet in Oregon today. Live in a church, masked and distance, played chords in tune with great musicians, met a killer horn player, caught up with good friends. We got paid, and I haven't opened the envelope to look at the check yet. Still in my coat pocket. Really don't give a blank.
People don't know this, but Tom Holtz is absolutely loaded, like disgusting loaded. Yeah. It's not worth his time to pick up
drunk?
$100 bill. That's not what I meant.
Rich. Oh, you meant rich.
Oh, goodness. Hey, what's up, Mike Horansky? That's like one of the best choral teachers while in the country is listening. So he's a Steelers fan, which is like, so like 2 strikes and you're bunting, but like he's an amazing educator and he's a relatively decent human as well. So
there you go.
He says love the conversation. So
well, I think it's it's just I feel like I think is that people are going to be more. I hope people will be more intentional and thoughtful about the stuff that they do, because it's like I'm trying to think. Well, what would I mean? I don't even know. Like hypothetically, it's a bad. That's a bad game because we instantly leave people out. But like, who would you get on a plane for? To like where that the art is going to be worth it, and that's not a huge list. And so then I really want to be careful about how I curate that art. I just feel like it's too. It's like everything else where it's like the disposable fashion thing and the disposable it's another one of those things where is this art worth it? Are we doing something, to borrow from Cutler again? He has this arts marketing canvas, the A-list canvas, and one of them is in the art itself. There's 2 things that you should consider. One of them is the relevance of the art, and 2 is the innovation. What innovation are you bringing? Like, what are you bringing to the table that is new or unique or innovative? Like, it's worth us not just listening to the other 40 recordings of it, if it's a piece of music, for example. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully that kind of thinking is going to go on. What I predict, and this is just pessimism, I suppose, but I predict it will be really special for about 6 to 18 months. And then I think people will start to take it for granted again. I mean, probably, potentially myself even. You're just like, we'll forget. I'm afraid we'll forget. I remember talking to Dr. Tim. And he's like, what, he's like a huge mentor and influence on me and a dear friend. And he's like, what I do and JD had a similar thing. It's like, we're kind of cotton candy. Like we're limited. We're like a shot of espresso, and we show up and get the kids all fired up and excited about doing what they're doing, but it wears off. It's just a few days until they're back to worrying about what they were worrying about.
And that's what we do too when we go and play a solo, and even spend a whole day and like do the class and all that. It's like, well, it's the educators like Alan and Mike who are and my wife who are they have to do the the work day in and day out is a hell of a lot harder than just go and do the dog and pony show and do something that's like real fast and then everybody freaks out and then you give them a real uplifting message. That part of the equation is important as well. It's very important, but
yeah,
but yeah,
I don't mean to diminish
it's all
it.
no, but it's all about the sustain thing. It's all about it's keeping kids energized, which I can't fathom doing right now, like in a pandemic. I'm talking about like during normal times. But so in terms of me personally, like I do the same thing with the bread, the hang and the art. For me, it can be only one of those things, but that has to be like just like the biggest check mark in the world. Like if I know that the music's going to be and the bread's but it's some of my best friends in the world, so meaning not that the art, meaning that the players aren't good, but just like what we're doing, that's fine. And that's a real specific scenario, obviously, that hypothetical that I just laid out. Or you're right. Money is the one that's got to be like, I think the most out of whack, like to like really, really great for me to say, yes, I will make sure that my suit is dry cleaned and I will go on an airplane. By the way, Cutler loves travel. Let him travel with a freaking tuba. And then I bet he won't like hate travel, but have him talk to me after he does that a couple of times on some crowded rental car shuttle bus with like business travelers. Like, I don't know how I never went to prison. But getting back to the uplifting part of our story, but yeah, the money thing, if you're only going for the money better be really good. Right. And the art could be amazing and you don't know anybody, and which means the hang might be great, but it might not be. I mean, yeah, but 2 out of the 3 is really good. Right. Yeah.
I could see the hang being the one that, if I could get back on stage with a bunch of you knuckleheads, like okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you, me, and it's interesting because it is a hypothetical. Because if like we could get we could do Cones and Tones again somewhere. Like the problem is like that band is not going to be able to, those 4. It's David Cutler, JD Shaw, Lance, and myself. Like we're not going to be able to get 2 out of the 4 people to be able to clear their schedules enough to go somewhere if there's not money. So it's a total hypothetical. But yeah, I'd go and do that for no money. I mean, if which would inconvenience my wife and probably involve possibly my mother, and like I mean, it's like, but that would be that just doesn't get to happen anymore. So.
Jonathan Dorn, welcome, Jonathan. He says he's going to look into virtual tuba coaching. I hope you do, Dorn. You have a lot to share. And Holtz confirms that he is drunk, and he's glad that he's like, don't even read my S-bomb on the air. Prisk said, Richard White, so fresh and so clean.
Yeah. Yep. That's that's it right there.
Raw tuba.
We promised shenanigans. I don't. So this is funny. I just noticed because Facebook has to mess with everything all the time. They changed the way pages work, and the number of characters for your top apparently changed because my artist page said musician, creator, speaker, creator of the entrepreneurial musician, former tuba player for Bosto.
Oh, I love Bosto.
That was
Bosto.
I hit refresh and I was like, what's going on? It's like 1 character left. So then I should just be former tuba player for Boston. See, you didn't even know that band had a tuba, did you? Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah.
So we have to do shenanigans now?
Well, I mean, kind of. That was actually kind of like useful content, which is not really our brand.
Our brand. That's right.
Unless the only time that we stay useful is when we hire someone to be useful and then we get a bunch of people who are paying for that person to be useful. Right. Then we have no problems like behaving, but there needs to be like There needs to be real structure.
This is a thing we didn't get to on the second call, and this also brushes way more closely up against actual content, so I apologize in advance. But I saw
Don't get your hopes up for next week, people.
I saw a video. This was just a clip of Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino. And he was, I don't know where he was, but somebody asked him about getting advice from, God, I love this guy, Terry Gilliam.
I don't know who that is.
Terry Gilliam, he was the guy who did all of the cartoons for Monty Python, and he was in the movies. He was a member of Python, but he was he wasn't in a lot of the skits, a few, but not many. He also directed Time Bandits, which was one of my favorite movies, Adventures of Baron Munchausen, 12 Monkeys, I think he did that one. Like, just, he has this very distinctive vision for his art, of which some of it is film. And so Quentin Tarantino said, you have this really distinct vision, and all of your films have a really unique outlook. And this was before Tarantino had made Reservoir Dogs. And he said, how do I make that happen? Because I'm just afraid. He goes, I know what I want it to look like, but I don't know how to bring that into existence. And he said, his advice, which was similar to the second interview we had today about how this person goes about creating what they create, I think, is that you have this clarity of vision for what the thing is, and then you surround yourself with the most talented people that you can find that will help bring that thing to life. Yeah. And if you're communicating clearly what that vision is, then you just leave it to them to put flesh on the bone. And we just didn't end up getting to go back to that, to the part of the conversation where we were talking about how this person and the group they're affiliated with make art. But I thought that is, to me, I think my fantasy is that that's how that person and group do stuff. Because the clearer it is, the better. And then you can communicate to the best. Actually, here's another example of that. My wife is...
hey, do you have another example?
Here's another
you could
example.
Share with us?
My wife has an incredible eye for interior design. She got a degree in it.
Obviously not men.
Not men. And she will often ask me, what do you think about this or this color or that thing or that whatever? And sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't get it, but I've just seen it brought to fruition enough times that I just know the vision is crystal clear in her head. And she's hiring the right people to execute on the vision, so that when the thing happens, it's just like, well, that just looks like it fell out of a magazine. I mean, I would never have picked any of the things that are in this room. And it was only through her vision of, like, she just knew, what does the room need to do? How do you exist in it? What are and then, okay, this is going to go there. That's going to do this. This is blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, then she can execute on the thing. But it's that clarity of vision that I think if you had, it's another form of the Abraham Lincoln thing. If you had what it was, if you had 8 hours to chop down a tree, you should spend the first 7 hours sharpening the axe, or whatever that quote is that Stephen Covey always uses. But yeah, I think that's there's something in there. So I'm sorry for content.
It's all about getting the right people on the bus, right?
Right.
Yeah. Everything's about getting good. Jim Collins, Good to Great, which, like, a bunch of that book is fine. And then the parts of that book that are actually, what is the book, the 80-20 principle? Have you read that book? Richard.
So it's been a long time. It sounds familiar.
What is his name? Richard Koch. The 80-20 principle. Right. It's like, it's old. I couldn't stop laughing when I realized that I was about like half, 2/3 of the way through, and that like 80% of that book is like and then 20% of it is absolute gold, like totally worth the read, but 80% of it was like The first for my, and this book has sold like 5 million copies, so I don't think the guy's like, oh please just throw it in an email and send it to me so I can update the next but yeah, he the first 20% of the book is just like, yeah, it just was very slow, but then there was a couple of things that like really it was very interesting. So
Well, that's what we were talking about. So what's the 20% of these events that is like super special, and that you should capitalize on these platforms?
yep.
Because
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Zach
And
Kramer
Zach,
has
yes.
it's
Yeah,
a
he
really
wants to know if
important
it's
question.
this is a polar seltzer
Ah,
out of Worcester, Massachusetts. So, which is known for very good fish concerts and polar seltzer. That's pretty much the list.
now, do you have a? I know the answer is yes, but I don't know what. Do you have a strong opinion on seltzer flavors?
Well, this is a
That's flavorless.
that's just plain. Yeah.
That's just
Um,
straight from the artesian well.
yeah. Well, I mean, I have more. I have more. I mean, for polar, which is what I tend to go with, because there are some that are significantly more expensive, and are either not any better, or I need there to be a certain number of bubbles. Like if there's not enough bubbles, it kind of tastes flat to me. And some of the real, I don't need any cucumber in my seltzer. Like, but it's not that I don't need it. It just doesn't do anything for me. If it did, I would totally. I don't care if it was dirt flavored and I liked it, I'd drink it. So, but it's very, very, very. I believe
it's earthy.
The wine people call that earthy.
Earthy, yeah.
Which real wine people say that anybody who calls anything earthy means that they don't know what the hell they're talking about, because that's not actually a flavor profile at all, but it makes you sound like you know what you're talking about. So I'm neither a real or a fake wine person because I don't drink. But
unicorn flavor.
Yeah, unicorns.
Yeah, Pareto. Yeah, the Pareto principle for sure.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that book, that 80-20 principle, was, yeah, what I really liked was he talked about 80-20ing your thinking. That was kind of the impact part. I mean, I had thought about, it's like what's the 20% of this piece that is going to get, that needs the
that's
the most
in my
work.
book. I do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Or of activities or whatever. But this guy really framed even like the thinking, which I thought was really, really cool. So it's funny. A lot of those old business books. What is that? How many habits of highly successful people? What is the 7?
7.
That book is like, I mean, I just finished the freaking Gulag Archipelago, and if it kept going, I would have been happy. And that was 77 hours on audiobooks. But that 7 principles of highly effective people was like 7 habits was like 3 times too long. Like there was just like every one of them had like 6 examples, and I don't know if it was my headspace, I didn't even get through the whole thing. It was like examples 4, 5, and 6 of each principle, like either shed like this much new light or none at all. Like, and it just could have just been. It could, but again, that guy, I don't know what he did with his money, but he could have bought like multiple large houses in Monaco with the money there. So it resonated with the world. So he doesn't need to worry about this tuba player.
Well, and I think what I wonder is that it was pretty innovative. It was one of the earlier books that really laid it out and had that big of an impact. And so I wonder if he needed, this. I remember reading it in the early '90s, and so then it. Since then, I think ideas that are built on that, you can use a shorthand, and it's just, I think, a little easier to do. But yeah, that one was pretty heavy.
It was a good reminder to me though, like, because when I write, I can sometimes include too many examples or too much detail. It's like, because if you can write half the words and have the same impact, or half the words and have 90% of the impact, that's not always the way to go. But I'm allergic to academic writing, like, which is like a style. And I got lots of, I don't think that it shouldn't exist, but like, I would never write anything in that style, like, unless I had to, because it's like a language that like a very limited number of people can even read in the first place. So you're just like restricting who's even going to be able to read it and impact it. And you know, it's like totally not my speed in any way, shape, or form. But you cannot be going, you know, highbrow and still have it be hard to process if it's like too wordy. So
Right. If I had had more time, I'd have written a shorter letter. You know that thing?
Yeah.
Was that Mark Twain? I can't remember. It's a pretty famous line. You know.
Yeah,
it's exactly right. You know, it's like,
yep,
get all the fluff out of there.
It's
I was watching.
Yeah,
I know I prattle on like once I get into a thing. Prisk says Spindrift is the way to go, by the way. Oh,
yeah,
you'll be happy to know that there's a new season of Taskmaster. I know you've been waiting for that, but I watched this guy Nate Bargatze on Netflix, and he was talking about how his kid is in like 3rd grade or something now, and he's realizing how little he knows. And he's talking about writing, and he said he never knows when to put in a comma. And he said, so if he senses that there's a comma coming, he gets out of the sentence as quickly as possible.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I have trouble with commas too. Like I can tend to want to put too many of them in. So, yes, Zach says, why use one word when you can use 3? That's actually pretty accurate. And then Holtz, the gatekeepers may have insisted that a certain minimum of pages means quality. I think that, nobody ever has to explain away. No advisor has to explain away why a doctoral thesis that they're in charge of is just like all the other doctoral theses.
Watch your mouth.
You know, in terms of length or in terms of tone or whatever, you know. And I'm not proposing before any academics. You can email me. Knock yourself out. But
I think we're covered. I'm guessing they selected out of here.
Yeah,
you know what I believe I will watch this evening?
Well, and I've got some former colleagues who would be like, yes, like out loud. Some who would say that quietly, and then others who would be like, you do not understand the, you know. I personally think that you should have to explain how somebody can graduate with an undergraduate degree in performance and do nothing unexpected on stage at all. Like that's something that you should have to explain to a committee. Not that like you filled a junior recital with level appropriate standard lit, and then you filled your senior recital with well, by the way, your half junior recital, and then you filled your senior recital with level appropriate standard lit. No one has ever
periods.
No one has ever been made to justify that, right? That's like that checks all the boxes. Yeah, there was paperwork at one of my recent former schools that we had to check which periods were covered, during the semester, where it's just like, yeah. And so if there were if there were only check marks on like modern, then it's like, and nobody followed up, but it's like, I left those blank, and then, because usually they just don't notice that kind of thing. And then I got them back. It was like, actually, it was polite. Like, you got to fill that in. I was like, why? Like, what, Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, it's like school doesn't necessarily, and there are exceptions like the person I'm talking to on this call right now, but school, you have to have teachers who are willing to fight to let kids do more imaginative stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's the teacher that is going to, it's like the doctoral advisor who's going to get the flack. It's not going to be the student. And so, it's this whole system that preserves like just doing the same thing as everybody else. Mm-hmm. So I didn't say everybody does the same thing as everybody else. I said it's a system that preserves that, which are two different things, in case anybody is firing up the email now and is tired like I am right now and is not doing good listening comprehension, because there are people still doing exceptional stuff, but the system rewards people who keep their heads down, which, oh, by the way, is not how you get a job in higher ed, is by not standing out. That ain't it, right? That's not how you get traction as a chamber group in the classical world, is by blending in. That's not how you get any traction anywhere in the music industry of any kind at all.
Right.
And yet that's what the school system kind of perpetuates.
It's a losing battle.
It's
Cassie's got a good point that Tolkien's sentences are long, but the structure is gorgeous. So you get a pass if what you're making is incredible art that changes the world.
Yes. And there are plenty of people who use really big words. We all know writers who use big words because they want you to know that they know big words or that describe harmonies or whatever in intentionally complicated ways. And there are other people who use really big words, but it doesn't. And this is obviously is me or any of us reading into it. But then there are other people who use it, and it's like it's the perfect verbiage to use. It's like it's not big words is not bad. Big words does not mean wordy, and long sentences does not mean wordy. But it can frequently be that. I don't know if you've ever been accused of this, Lance, but sometimes I think you love the sound of your own voice. So. Sorry. Speaking of which, we have a Brass Junkies survey right now. If you go to petalummedia.com/survey, if you want to fill that out, we got that open for like another about a week, and we're choosing that, and it'd be a big help if you did that. We are going to choose one person's going to win a $100 Amex gift card. So I filled out a survey too because we're not a real company, so like I think I should be eligible to win it. I'm just going to randomly choose, like, hey, I won the game. This is awesome. Yeah. So I'm going to give us all 10 out of 10 on everything. So
that's pretty good. Yeah. It turns out if you ask people what they think, they tell you.
Yeah. Like, no. We want blind affirmation. We don't want any actionable. That's pretty funny. Oh, Jermaine Farr says definitely have a point.
I know. See? Welcome, Jermaine.
Yep.
Good to see you. Well, good to see a small circle with your face in it. Yeah. Picture of your face.
It's like he's being awfully still. Oh, goodness gracious.
All right, did we change the world?
This was much more.
Yeah, I'm sorry we were like on task.
There wasn't as much jackassery as there. I was going to say can be, almost always is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because I actually put in there that there was going to be shenanigans. So
I jinxed it.
There was not as many shenanigans as promised. So anyway, all right, man. Well,
changing lives.
I'm trying to think of.
Excited for these next two episodes.
Yeah, they were really good. They're really, really, really good. I know one more thing is that because I needed a new project.
Oh yeah,
I've got a new project which I'm not announcing yet, but it's getting announced in the intro of Tuesday's episode, and I got a really big guest to kick things off. I'm super excited about it. It's kind of like a spinoff of Winning the Audition ish, but it's not about auditions. But I think it's going to be really cool. So, and it's somebody I look up to in the brass world, but it's
just because they're tall.
But they're a dear friend of mine, so don't tell them I said that, or I will have no leverage during that event, and that will backfire. So, and actually, by the time Tuesday launches, I may have another one lined up. So,
woot.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. I think these are going to be good. Put it this way, I'm super excited about it because it's like content that I would devour if I was, out there. So, anyway. I think that's it, Lance. I'm going to miss you desperately, man. We've spent
the best way to do it.
We spent like 5 hours on Zoom today.
Yeah.
I have a request actually, is that that I not see your face tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any problem fulfilling that.
All right. Thanks everybody.